Welcome to another episode of Straight Talk on Stocks with Kevin Hurley, managing partner of Hurley Investments LLC, and Jeffrey Dunyan, CEO and owner of Safe Option Strategies. Actually rolling.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good freaking morning.
Is it a good Bank of America morning?
Bank of America is kicking butt. What did they do? Triple their profits or something like that? Some ridiculous thing like that?
Yeah, it was a really, really good number for Bank of America. Currently sitting up 5.92%. But more importantly, they knocked their earnings out of the park.
Bank of America. What were their numbers? What was their
Well, profit tripled, and it was a record of 7.3 billion. It also bought back 26 billion shares of common stock. I'm reading this off of the little news press. Trillions of dollars of consumers' transactions were processed. It was, for all intents and purposes, better than expected profit and revenue, so that's top and bottom line. And it is driven by consumer banking as well as lower taxes. So good run up, record earnings for them. Let's see if they get back up to 32.
I don't know that they couldn't do it. Yesterday, or the day before, I argued with you about Ford getting up to
13?
I think you said $27 a share because you were so stupid on that.
13?
As much as I fought you and argued with you about Ford getting up to $90 a share, I think you might be right on Bank of America. I could see him hitting 32. Someone out there is going to go out and buy 40 strike long calls on Ford saying, Jeffrey said they were going to 90. Kevin thinks they're going to 90. You watch, somebody will do that. I'm telling you right now.
Well, Jeffrey, as I told you yesterday, I'm just glad it is being rewarded. It was not rewarded at all last year for good earnings, for bad earnings. It had the market sentiment of being a loser position. And now, cha-ching, and I suffered. I'll be honest with you. I had to roll some long calls from last year out in time. I think I had 20 contracts and I could only afford 4 to go out. So it was, this is interesting. If you do valuations, it should trade in that $35 to $37 range just on its earnings. And I'm looking forward to finally get up to 35 because I've been waiting all of last year. And instead it went from, 30 down to 25 instead of from 30 up to 35.
Got down to 22 at one point in time, didn't it?
I don't remember. I was so depressed. I
think the most recent drop they suffered had them somewhere down in that $22 a share range. Look, there you go, right there. If you can see the chart, there's below 23. I don't remember the exact number they hit.
So it was more the 23 and a half range, 24 range.
How about 22.66 for the low?
That I was dollar cost averaging long call contracts. I've got 65 contracts, these bad boys.
Nice. Well, it's incredibly pleasing to me to see them gap up like this, and I think they could make a run to 32. I wouldn't be shocked.
32 would make me profitable. 30, I think I've got a cost basis of 79.6 cents.
Nice.
So 30 makes me profitable. 32 makes me nicely profitable, where I need to be closing some out and taking a profit, maybe letting some go that are 100% paid for.
So let me ask you this: you got the Dow. The Dow's still up over 100 points right now as we're doing this, as we're live. But you've got I've got a bunch of companies that I follow and that I trade that are actually down fractionally this morning. Apple is up, and they're a big Dow component. Boeing is pretty flat. They're still the biggest Dow component. United Health Group is up about 1.25%, but
That's earnings.
more than half the board. If you look at the Dow 30 right now, more than half of them are trading in the negative right now. So is it just on the back? I mean, Goldman Sachs is up almost 6%, and they've been over 6.5% at one point in time, because they did almost exactly the same thing that Bank of America did. They just record breaking profits, record breaking revenues. They just absolutely crushed it. But you've got things being, and that's why the S&P is up less than 0.2%, is because they don't have the big companies like the Dow that are. I mean, the Dow's got a handful of companies that have put everything else on their backs today and are taking them to the upside. Because I trade Nike, and Nike's down a little bit. I mean, we're talking 13 cents a share, not a big deal. I trade Caterpillar, they're down a little bit today. I know you trade Verizon, they're down 1.25% today. Or I'm sorry, Visa. You trade Visa, and Visa is up a little bit today. My bad. I'm looking at the ticker symbol V for Visa and VZ for Verizon. So I trade Chevron. Chevron's down a little bit. You saw oil inventories were down by a couple million barrels or something like that. Kevin, you still there? All right, Kevin, if you can hear me, refresh everything on your side of things. We got a snowstorm going on in Utah today. So Kevin's got that issue that he deals with anytime there's a little bit of snowstorm. I think he's logging out and logging back in. So anyway, good to see these earnings of these big banks come in strong. I think that's good for the overall economy. But without that today, you might see the Dow trading pretty flat. I don't know about negative necessarily, but you might see them trading on the flat side. We'll see what happens throughout the trading day. Netflix is going to report tomorrow. There's a lot of talk about Netflix and the fact that they just raised or just announced that they're going to raise their subscription rates. Their mid-range and their premium subscriptions are going to go up by a couple dollars a month. Their entry-level subscription is going to go up $1. I don't know. That's I heard a guy. I wish I could remember the guy's name. I heard a guy say on the news this morning that the only reason they would make that announcement a couple of days before their earnings is if they absolutely know for a certainty that they're going to knock it out of the park, that they're going to absolutely unequivocally crush it when they report. So, they're going to report tomorrow. It'll be really interesting to see what happens. Kevin, you back yet?
I'm back. Don't buy Comcast stock because their internet sucks.
Well,
there's my plug on Comcast for you.
All right. Sell. Yeah, and when we were done with yesterday's show, Kevin warned me and he said, "Hey, be careful if you mention specific names of companies and then say something bad about them. They'll sick their lawyers on you, and we'll be in trouble." And now he's coming on and bashing Comcast because his internet signal goes out anytime there's a little bit of moisture out at his house.
Wow, way to throw it back on me.
Yeah, well, you're the one that lectured me yesterday.
Sell Comcast.
No, don't sell them off. They'll raise their prices, and I have to use them too. They're kind of the only player in my area. Dow is only up 83 points now. There's got to be. I'm not scanning the headlines like I should. There's got to be some information that this has got to be more than just the day traders and the E-minis getting out of the way, right? Something's going on.
Well, So part of the buy with the dippers is how many dippers do you have still left to buy, right? Um, the mornings are always you clear out your e-minis and your futures contracts, so you always have a short selling period. And really, I think you get the trend of the market after the first hour. By after the first hour, most of the future contracts are cleared out, and you now have the trend for the day. So I don't pay too much attention. Let's look at it at 8:30, which is probably what 5-10 minutes ago. And if we've lost half our gains, it's probably going to be a pretty flat day for us.
Well,
Go Bank of America, sell Comcast.
yeah. Okay, everyone's got that. All right. So when you were out for a minute, I was talking a little bit about Netflix. I listened to someone say this morning on Fox Business News, they had some guest on with Stuart Varney who said, no way in the world would Netflix raise their prices, announce a price increase 2 days before earnings, unless they knew they were going to blow their subscriber numbers and their revenue numbers out of the water. They're never going to hit huge on profit numbers, and no one cares. They just want to see the revenue and they want to see the subscriber base continue to go up.
Well, that's putting his neck out there, but I don't know. I mean, in all honesty, no one knows. I can't remember last time when they did it if they had better subscribers and had a good earnings. But as I said yesterday, I don't think it matters. I think a $2 increase is affordable. As I told you, they're a great babysitter for me sometimes. I'll go from $14.99 to $16.99 and for a one-time fee when I tell my kids probably a couple times a month, get out of my office, go watch Netflix, go entertain yourselves, and that's what Netflix does for me. It's a cheap babysitter.
Yeah. You have your camera turned on right now? I just can't. You might be on. I just can't see you.
I do have the camera, I
And I should
thought.
maybe not complain about that. Not seeing you while we're doing this is not necessarily a bad thing. There you go. You suddenly came back. So
Turn it off, turn it back on, reset it. But anyway, let's talk about what's most important. Bank of America is up. If you're a
you're
little
not going to get
over
off Bank of
leveraged
America.
in the bank,
That ship has sailed. We're done talking about Bank of America. We're moving on to other
okay.
things.
Well, let's just talk about financials. Last year, financials, technology, and healthcare were supposed to go up.
Okay.
Financials tanked. Technology was down a little, and healthcare was the one positive sector, you could say, on the S&P. This year, those same analysts said, guess what? This year, technology, banks, and healthcare are your winners for all the opposite reasons they said the year before. Last year was higher interest rates, so banks are going to make a lot more money on the spread. Technology has a ton of cash, you don't have to loan. Healthcare is just driven by the population growth, or I guess not growth, the population
What are
the aging population.
so let me I'm gonna cut you off here. What are the two absolute truths about analysts?
That they don't know their head from a hole in the wall.
Well, I mean that's a different way of saying it. They're always surprised and they're always wrong.
Very true.
They're always surprised by what happened. These numbers surprised analysts to the downside. These numbers surprised analysts to the upside. They're always surprised, which means they're always wrong.
I don't put a lot of credence into it. I just thought it was funny how, for all the opposite reasons from last year, those sectors are going to go up this year. And the reality is, obviously, nobody knows, but I do think banks were unfairly punished last year. I think technology was punished last year when it didn't have to be. Expectations were probably too high in both sectors.
Okay. So there were some numbers that were supposed to come out this morning. And some, I wish I could remember now, some private company put out some numbers on housing starts or new builds or something like that. But we didn't get the official government numbers on that. And I think we were supposed to get retail sales numbers this morning as well. I might be wrong on which report. There were a couple of reports that were supposed to come out.
So those reports are retail sales, NAB housing, Fed beige book today. Import and export numbers as well, but they're not really important.
Well, we'll get the Fed beige book, right? I mean, that's going to come out whether the government is shut down or not.
Yep. So no retail sales numbers today, and probably no NAHB.
Wait a minute. Wait. No retail sales numbers?
I wouldn't think so.
Why isn't the market closed down? Why hasn't industry ground to a halt? Why isn't everything frozen? How is it possible the world is still turning when a government agency isn't there to give us some bullshit numbers that nobody cares about, but everyone reacts to?
Because Christmas is already over and those numbers really don't matter right now.
Those numbers don't ever matter when we're getting them from the government.
Ooh, ouch.
Look, I'm going to, okay, this is my soapbox moment for the day. I feel bad for the people who are not getting their paychecks right now. I know they're going to get back paid once the government is open again. I know they're going to get back paid. But still, they've got bills that are due right now today. Some of their creditors are going to be sympathetic. Others are not. They've got groceries they've got to put on the table. They're not going to run down. Some of them have the ability to run down to the store and put that on a credit card for right now. Some of them don't. I feel bad for the people that show up at their jobs every day. They're good employees. They're hard workers. I know that's kind of weird to say that about government employees, but some of them are good employees. Some of them are hard workers. Some of them do a good job of what they do. And I feel bad for those people that are sitting at home not getting their paycheck right now. In a way, they're getting paid time off, but they have to wait for the money, and that creates some hardship. I'm not discounting that, but if you compartmentalize that and put that aside, nothing in most people's lives has changed outside of the government employees. Nothing in most people's lives have changed. Earlier this week, I heard someone getting all upset about not getting some new home sales or some housing numbers. And here's the problem I have with that. How many people in how big a department are we paying to put out some numbers, paying with our tax dollars to put out some report and put out some numbers that if there was a demand for that, the private sector would provide us? We're paying how many millions of dollars collectively to a group of employees that compile the numbers and give us a report once a month on new home starts or new builds or existing home sales or whatever. And the reality is KB Homes could give us that. Toll Brothers could give us that. Remax could give us that. They could give us those numbers. If there was a demand for it, the private sector would provide it. Why are we paying tax dollars to government agencies to shuffle paper and crunch numbers and put together reports for us? It is ridiculous to me. Nothing in my life, nothing that I do has come to a screeching halt. Nothing that I need is not working. There's a reason they refer to this as non-essential government employees, non-essential jobs. There's a reason they're called non-essential, because life would go on without them and we would not miss a beat. And those 500,000 to 800,000 people, I've heard different numbers on it, whatever that number is, those 500,000 to 800,000 people that are not working right now and still getting paid and will get back paid. If there's a demand for what they do and what they provide, they can go out in the private sector and get a job. Get them off the damn government dole. Stop spending our tax dollars on needless government agencies, putting out crap numbers that are wrong 90% of the time. 90% of the time, the numbers they put out are wrong. I don't know that they're not made up half the time. Okay, I'm off my soapbox now.
For you.
I'm off my soapbox now. It just pisses me off that people are freaking out. I'm hearing people on the news, I'm hearing people on TV freak out about, oh, we're not getting the retail sales numbers. Industry as we know it is going to shut down and we're going to go in the dark ages. What a load of crap. We don't need them.
Well, let
We
me
don't
take
need
the
those
other side
reports
for you.
ever.
It is 800,000 people supposedly that are not getting paychecks. That yes, they will most likely get.
They
They'll be
will get
reimbursed
back paid.
for it.
There's already
But
been a bill signed saying they will get back paid.
but that doesn't help them putting stuff on cards. I bet you most of these are paycheck to paycheck people anyway.
Oh, that's why I
In
said
the past, and it's tough. It's tough.
that's why I said I feel bad for the individuals that are hard workers that show up every day and do their job and do what they're supposed to. I'm not unsympathetic to the fact that they're in a tough spot. But you know what? Companies have layoffs. I've been in a tough spot several times in my life when companies have downsized or closed their doors or had layoffs, and I've been in a bad spot. I've been in a tough spot. And you know what I do? I go out and find another freaking job, and I don't sit at home and cry like a baby about it and make a political issue out of it. We should downsize the hell out of our government.
Well, I'm not going to argue with that either, but these reports are checks and balances. I'll go on and tell you it wouldn't surprise me to see Remax put out numbers that are slanted to their benefit and lowering their competition numbers if they had to compile all those numbers being non-judgmental or non-biased. I think the reason why the government has some of these is because they need a non-biased quote unquote agency to compile and to give a hardly accurate number out for futures and so forth to trade off of.
Can you hear my eyes rolling to the back of my head when you say a non-biased government agency? Do you really believe that the bureaucrats, that the higher up bureaucrats that sit in these government offices, did Lois Lerner not teach you anything about the objectivity of your typical career government person? Did Andrew McCabe and Jim Comey not teach you anything about the objectivity of the typical government employee? To think that these agencies are unbiased and that they're not slanting numbers towards their boss's political agenda your head is buried in the sand. You're living in a fantasy land if you really believe that they are not biased as hell all the time. They are ripe with bias.
Well, I really want to find an argument for you. Just take the other side.
I'm really on one. Yeah. I'm really on one. And I cannot overemphasize that I wish these people, look, I wish these people were getting their paychecks and that they were told, you have 3 months to go find another job because we're shutting this whole department down because it's unneeded, it's unnecessary. We will give you a great referral. We will help you. Hell, we'll create a department that'll last for 1 year that'll be there for the sole purpose of helping you get jobs in the private sector. But what we do is worthless to the average American. It's worthless to the average investor, because if the market demands those reports and demands those numbers, there's a way for them to have, and you can have your checks and balances without having an entire department, bloated, fat ass government department sucking off the teat of the American taxpayer to compile a few numbers that one Indian graduate from MIT could put together in a spreadsheet in 15 minutes.
You're killing me.
I'm telling you, it infuriates me that we spend the kind of money we do on these bloated government agencies. And the fact that the Dow is up 121 points right now. When did the government shutdown start? Right at the end of the last year?
3.5 weeks ago, right?
Okay, end of last year. Has anything come to a screeching halt? Other than there's not as many park rangers when you go into the park? That just means you can take a piss wherever you want instead of having to drive 10 miles to some smelly outhouse. Well, men can do that at least.
Well, actually what it means is you can go fishing without a license and take more than the allotted amount of fish.
There you go. Less government restriction. Laissez-faire capitalism. Laissez-faire means hands off. It means stay the hell out of what we're doing. Our country was founded on laissez-faire capitalism. That's what it was founded on. Stay out of our business.
You're just egging me on.
I don't want your stupid retail sales reports. Let Nordstrom's and Macy's tell me how much crap they sold in their quarterly earnings report, and there's my retail sales report. I don't need a government retail sales report.
So for years, I've preached to people, you can't plan on being successful if you don't know what's going on. And part of knowing what's going on is studying and going through these reports to know trends and cycles and GDP numbers and making your best educated guess with the information you have at hand. I'll agree, maybe retail sales is not one of the most important, but I do think these reports serve a purpose, and I also think it really separates the haves from the have-nots. The haves that are willing to put the effort and work in to make a go at trading in the stock market for a living versus those that are haphazardly just going through saying, I hope I make money. Gamble, let it roll.
Find a couple of MIT students and give them a college project and say, hey, here's all this information. Stick it in a spreadsheet and give us a report, and we'll give you $500 a month to help with your housing. Instead of paying millions of dollars to an entire government agency to come up with those numbers. We've got the technology that could spit out those numbers for us with a few smart individuals compiling the data and building the algorithms that will pull the data. I mean, where is the government getting the data from for all this information? What, for a retail sales report, where's the government getting the data from to put out a retail sales report? I'm willing to bet you that 30 people all making $75,000 a year or more, plus benefits, plus vacation pay, plus their payroll tax, all that stuff. I'm willing to bet that a department of 30 people that come up with the retail sales report, I'm just guessing on that number, I'll bet you one guy that's a recent college graduate in statistics could build an algorithm that would pull that data and spit out those numbers instead of a committee talking about it for a month at a time and then coming up with a number. It's just ridiculous.
Next.
Okay. Why is Ford Motors down? We talked a little bit about Ford. Yesterday they were down for most of the day, and then they rebounded to, I think, only about maybe a 5-cent per share loss yesterday when all was said and done. Where did they end up? They spent most of the day in negative territory, closed the day before at $8.99, finished the next day at $8.75. So they actually were yesterday. They must have sold off a little bit right at the end of the day, because I saw at one point in time they were only down 4 or 5 cents. But I guess they finished down about 24 cents a share, and they're down another 24 cents a share right now today. What gives? Why is Ford selling off?
Little profit taking from making over 10% in a couple weeks.
You're not worried about yesterday and today. Yesterday was pretty high volume. Yesterday, and I'm sorry, they closed at 8.84. So when all was said and done yesterday, they were down 15 cents a share when all was said and done. They had been down farther than that during the day, but at the end of the day, they were only down 15 cents a share. That was on some big volume, though. 65 million shares. Their average daily volume is somewhere just above maybe 40 million.
Yeah, I profit.
Do you worry about that? Do you worry that they ran into resistance right at night?
About it, or that I'm nonchalant, but when you go from 720-ish up to $9, there's some people that are going to take their money off the table and run for the hills. So to lose 50 cents and still keep $1.20 of the 170 to the upside, I don't want to say I'm okay with, but it doesn't shock me.
Well, for as much as you want to see Bank of America go up and hit 20 or 30, 32 or 33 or 34, and as much as I was giving you grief for your prediction that Ford was going to go to 107, I'd like to see him at least get up to $10 a share.
I'd like to see him at 13 where they belong.
Yeah, ain't gonna happen. But
it has nothing to do with the 30 some odd thousand shares of Ford I own, or 28 or whatever it is.
They're down 25 cents a share right now, almost 3%. We're out of time today, but when we come back tomorrow, depending on where they finish, we're going to talk some more about Ford.
Sounds good.
I'm going to not be on such a rant about other stuff because tomorrow we're going to do this a little bit earlier, and I'm going to hit the ski slopes and get a day of skiing in tomorrow.
Right on. Where are you going at?
Most likely Brighton, but I'm taking a hard look at Sundance because they picked up about a foot of snow overnight.
I'll be on my way to Vegas tomorrow.
That's right. You're going down to Vegas tomorrow. And then you and I are going to be, oh, by the way, for our listeners, Kevin and I are going to be in Houston and Dallas, not this coming weekend, but next weekend. We'll be doing a show live from there on Monday morning and Friday morning as well, right?
At least a couple.
I think we'll be doing Friday morning live, and we may end up doing a live presentation from the airport on Thursday in Denver with a long connection.
Ooh. Gotta meet with some people. Need time for lunch.
Well, we'll figure out what to do then.
All
right, Kevin, let's wrap up right there.
Tomorrow.
Let's wrap up right there. Have a great day. Yeah, we'll talk some more Ford, and I'll try and stay off the soapbox about unnecessary government agencies.
Don't forget Netflix tomorrow. It'll be interesting to see what their numbers are.
That'll probably, you know what? But they report tomorrow after the market closes, right?
I believe they do.
I think so. I think that's going to be a huge topic for Friday morning show.
Sounds good. You take care. Have a good one. I'll talk to you tomorrow morning.
Okay. Bye-bye.